Alright guys, today I wanted to talk to you about kind of how I approach RTA. So I made this little chart of what I call the 4 pillars of RTA, and these are the things that I think are the most important to bring into every match if you can. And conversely, if your opponent only has one monster that brings one of these components, they're the most important thing to ban. So if you can completely ban them out of one category, you're going to be in really good shape. So to me, the 4 categories are sustain, and I called it sustain plus because it's sustain and something else. Just healing is not enough in RTA. You need to bring as many different tools as you can. So sustain plus. Defense break. Defense break is very important because if you can defense break them and avoid being defense broken yourself, you're going to get kills a lot quicker. They're going to have trouble sustaining through it. If neither team brings defense break, that's when you see matches go to the timer. And at the timer, certain things have an advantage, and some people play for the timer. But if you're both at the timer, sometimes it's just a toss-up, and you don't want to leave your matches to a 50-50 chance. Turn advantage is where most of the gameplay comes from in RTA. You can see it's got the most units that meet its requirements. Taking more turns than your opponent is going to be always beneficial. So a lot of RTA matches come down to strictly turn advantage. And then stripping is super important for a variety of reasons. It makes it possible for you to defense break, and it makes it possible for a lot of turn advantage to work. A lot of turn advantage doesn't work through immunity. A lot of shields are sustained. So stripping makes all 3 categories worse for your opponent, and so having stripping is really, really good. And just having your thing stripped is also bad. So those are the 4 main categories I divide all the monsters into in RTA. Now these are not every single monster that's good in RTA. These are the ones that just stood out to me that I wanted to talk about. I'm not saying this is, the absolute be-all, end-all. I'm just giving you my opinion here, so hopefully it'll be helpful. So I thought instead of talking about every single monster, what would be helpful is dividing it into which ones fit which categories. So these are the monsters that fit 1 category each. They don't do 2 things. It's arguable, of course, oh, this one does a little bit of that, a little bit of that, but to me, these all are 1 single-purpose monsters. And the single-purpose monsters, for me, are really, really, really good at their job. And that's why you take them, even though they only meet 1 category. So for the sustain, Wusa is really, really good with that shield, which is pure health. It's health right on top of your health. And he's got a little heal, so he's great at sustain. Also, the immunity is very helpful for keeping you alive. Water Unicorn, similar. Going to keep immunity up almost all the time. It's going to make it difficult for them to defense break you. It's going to be difficult for them to gain turn advantage through stuns. So it's just keeping you alive is how I consider that. And then Perna is healing, lots and lots of healing. 10% doesn't feel like a lot, but it adds up over the course of a match. And Perna, of course, the plus in Perna Sustain is just massive amounts of damage that can just break the other team's monsters apart. All right, turn advantage. These are the turn advantage specific monsters, and you'll notice they're very, very good at turn advantage. They don't do a lot other than that, but they do what they do really well. Hathor, when she takes her 3rd turn, she's exchanging possibly 8 turns of your opponent. I mean, you would assume all of them wouldn't be asleep, but 6 turns for sure if it's a full sleep and you keep hitting the one that's awake. 6 turns for 1 turn plus the attack bar reduction of 75%. So it's almost like 9 to 12 turns of exchange for 1 of her turns. It's a massive amount of turn advantage, and that's why she can turn the match. Ganymede's similar. He's going to wipe everyone's attack bar clear. That's at least 4 turns. He's going to be resetting, which gives you an advantage over your opponent. In turns, kind of, they have to wait for their turn to reset. Sierra's interesting, and I almost didn't include her, but she is really, really good in RTA. Her turn advantage is from her leader skill. Every time a monster takes a turn, they take an extra 4th turn with the 24%. So every full round, you get a full extra turn, basically. So it's subtle, and you don't really feel it, but it adds up. It can also help put you over the edge in going first. Going first can be really important because if you can go first, get your defense break in, or get your sustain up, or maybe get a kill, you're going to gain a lot of turns over the course of the match. Like if you go first and then you Hathor, Sierra's turn made that possible, and then Hathor gave you the extra 8+ turns over your opponent. Both water monsters, pretty straightforward. They just exchange single turns of theirs for multiple turns of the opponent, and they do it really well. And then also for the dark monsters, Amduat and Ragdoll. Ragdoll he's like a he's like a Sierra in that he's constantly providing turns. It's just not a leader skill. It's a passive ability. And Amduet as well, same thing, passive ability, gaining new skills. So those are the monsters I feel like bring one thing to the fight, but do it really, really well. All right, these are the monsters that bring two things to the fight, and you can kind of mix and match. Like if you're missing one thing from one category, this monster might bring something from multiple categories. So as far as the sustain plus, Olivia is bringing the shield, the defense buff, which is sustain, it's keeping you alive, and she's bringing turn advantage by giving someone else a turn with her command ability and by reducing the attack bar. So Olivia is a sustain and turn advantage. Eladriel is a strip, 75% single target strip, not bad. And also heavy, heavy sustain with the res, which is like a whole nother life, and the heal. Eladriel loses effectiveness if you don't bring something to end the fight quickly, like a defense break. So if you're going to bring Eladriel, you want to make sure you can get a defense break through. Monkey King, turn advantage and defense break, which is, defense break's pretty rare, so it's nice to have him in there. And his turn advantage is in the form of passive stuns. Every time he procs, he'll lash out, get a free turn, so that's a turn for him, extra damage, and possibly stun, which is another extra turn net over your opponent. And then Triton has the AoE strip and the turn advantage every time he strips. It's a extra turn basically for your team if it all lands, 25% per person. His second skill as well with the silence puts you a little bit ahead of the cooldowns, so that's another way he also gives you turn advantage. Okay, so fire sustains. We've got the fire monkey, we got Laika, and we've got Raccoony. Laika is sustained in that he won't die in one big hit, and most people build him vampire, so that's going to be extra sustained. He can keep himself alive. My Laika, I've had him solo the element he's weak to. He'll solo Camilla's, he'll solo Chow's, which is great, and it's because of the vampire set and the fact that he's not taking as big of a hit. The fire monkey is similar. His sustain is that he can't be slept, he can't be stunned. He's going to counter what people are trying to do with turn advantage. So he's keeping himself alive. That's kind of how he works. It's not quite sustained in the traditional sense, but to me, that's what he brings. And then Raccoony is really good against turn advantage. He's cleansing, he's taking extra turns, he's nullifying what people are trying to do to lock you down. And then Vivishell is insane. It's just this, it's got a heal and immunity, it's got a balancing heal. Vivishell's insane. Okay, so Molong has the defense, and we're going into defense break. Molong has the defense break on the first skill, which is great, and the AoE strip. Most people build him super tanky, so he's going to last a while. So he's great. Tableau is so good at turn advantage, he could almost, I mean, if he didn't have a defense break, you would still bring him. But he also has a defense break. He's slowing you, he's taking your turns, he's stunning you, he's ridiculous. He's just so, so, so good. And then Frigate is providing the defense break and the massive turn advantage with his 50% bar booster and his skill cooldown, which is important. I've heard people talk about units they pair with Frigate and not even realize that they're referring to cool times, including Frigate. They think that certain units have cool times that are less than they actually are because Frigate's always cooling them down. They get them back up quicker. The other turn advantage monsters, Chilling is an interesting one. He's giving you a speed buff and a single target slow. So he's really pulling that speed in two different directions. He's speeding you up and he's slowing you down. So that's great turn advantage. And then he's got the strip as well, the single target strip. So that's why he makes it out of the list. Pisama, turn advantage in the same way that Ciara provides turn advantage in the attack bar increase, except instead of 24 times 4, it's 33 times 4 every turn. So your guys are just rounding that corner faster and faster, taking more turns. So he's putting you up there. He's got a single target strip on his first skill, which is also really good. Let's see. Okeanos is an interesting one. He is kind of like Varad in that he switches one of his turns for 4 of yours if he gets a full stun. Varad has a second skill that's going to do it again, basically. But Okeanos provides the strip and the reset, which is really good. You can reset somebody that'll take a bunch of turns from them in terms of effective turns that they can do something. They can still take their first skill, but that reset is fantastic. Okay, who have we not talked about here? Gianna, basically, she is going to be stunning you and stripping you, and they go hand in hand. You could probably count her first skill as slight turn advantage just for her, but really it's the strip and the stun that makes her great. All right, let's look at the things that I feel like fit into 3 categories. These are the ones that, to me, are decent first picks because they bring lots of things. They're also things you would probably want to ban if you have the opportunity, because you could possibly ban your opponent out of 1 category or 2 categories with just 1 monster, especially if they're really leaning on those monsters. So Wind Panda, sustain. He's got the heal. He's got the self cleanse. He's got defense break on his first skill, and his turn advantage passive is insane. He's constantly refreshing his skills. It's hard to even hit him in between his skills sometimes. So Wind Panda is fantastic, and the fact that he scales off of the best defensive kind of sustainy stat in real-time arena makes him really, really good. Tiana, similarly, has that defense break on 1, which most people don't think of it because her strip and turn advantage is so powerful all in 1 skill. But that defense break on 1 can make or break an RTA match very often. You hit something, it's hurting, you nuke it all the way down, and Tiana can facilitate that. So Tiana, defense break, turn advantage, and strip, fantastic. Irresistible strip, just so, so, so good. Annabelle. Annabelle has a great heal based on attack power, so she can be hitting pretty hard while healing you up, and especially when the timer starts counting down, it basically becomes an AoE full heal for your team, which is so good. Defense break, the 3-turn defense break is devastating. It just stays around forever, and if you can't get rid of it, your opponent can pick and choose who they want to nuke down, which is really, really bad for you. And then her turn advantage, I think primarily through her first skill, where she'll take turn after turn after turn, refresh her cooldowns, sleep you, which takes away 1 of your turns. It's really tough that when you fall asleep, she gets an extra turn because it's a net 2 turns in her first skill. It's so good. It's targeted. It's fantastic. Bastet. Bastet has the shield, which is great sustain. It's health on top of your health. She's got turn advantage in her bar boost to start off the match, and those are going to be happening over and over. It's a 25% for your whole team, so it's what Sierra gives you passively by being a leader. Bastet gives it to you in a skill with sustain. And then her defense break, AoE defense break on 2 is also really, really good. So Bastet's a great unit. And then there's Orion. Orion defense breaks. He has the defense break on 3 and his defense break AoE defense break on 2. His turn advantage and his bar boost, he's going to start lapping you if you don't have a bar boost of your own. And then he also has the strip on his 3rd skill. He also gains turn advantage for himself by taking multiple turns, so that's what makes him so, so good. And then we've got Velajul. Velajul, fantastic monster. The immunity focuses at it functions as a sustain in that you're not getting people aren't doing getting turn advantage against you in certain ways. They're not defense breaking you. So Velajul's keeping your team alive by keeping bad stuff off you. The cleanse with the immunity, so good. Turn advantage, he's a bar boost, and the strip on 1 is what makes him good, just like all the archangels get that strip on 1. So those are your main units that most people would have access to that can do all 3 things. If you have 1 or more of these units, you're probably already using them in RTA. They're really, really good. Okay, let's go to the fancy units that are just fantastic that I do not have. I'm sorry, that's not true. I have Gemini. Gemini, he defense breaks. He gives you turn advantage in his stun. Most people build him to stun, so his AoE stun and his strip. And the fact that he's doing the strip every turn, if you pick the right comp, is really, really great. So Gemini is a great first pick. Also, he's providing you turn advantage with his leader skill, which is another thing that most people don't think about. But if it gives you turn 1, your chance to win that match got better. If you go second in RTA, you are letting RNG dictate the match to a heavier degree than if you go first. If you go second, it doesn't matter how tanky your team is. If they have a Perna, if they have a Theo, they're threatening a kill right off the bat, no matter what. Going second is tough. A lot of people can do it. A lot of people have the mons for it. Things can go bad, and people, say it's bad luck, and it is. But it's also going second. You're opening yourself up to that sort of bad luck. Okay. Light Sky Dancer, Ying Hong, I believe. Has the ridiculous sustain in that heal. So good. She's got the strip on 2, which I believe scales off of speed, which is of course how she's going to be built. So she's stripping all the time. She's super fast. And turn advantage, she's filling up attack bars. It feels like every single turn. She is borderline broken, so good at all the things she does. Not just one specific thing, she just crushes it in every aspect of the game. Okay. Iris, her passive sustain is fantastic because it works even when she's, nullified. Um, the turn advantage she provides, mainly in her stun, which most people build her to spare. She's constantly stunning. She's usually revenge stunning, so it's even hard to nuke her down. And she's AoE stripping whenever the user wants. She's so good. Light Panda, defense break on 1, very important. And turn advantage in that he's slowing down your bar boost and speeding himself up, and then he's got the AoE strip of Molong as well. And then the only dark monster that I feel fits all 3 categories is the Kung Fu Girl. Got the defense break, I believe on multiple skills. The leader skill turn advantage, just like Ciara. It's so important, those speed leader skills. Um, and then the strip, I believe, is on her 2nd skill. So that to me is what makes Faye so good. The damage she brings is probably why most people bring her, but even if she didn't have that damage, I feel like bringing her tanky for the 3 things she brings that isn't damage related would still be really, really good. So those to me are the breakdown of the 4 different categories of RTA, and kind of my thoughts on why you would want to bring a certain monster in a certain category. There's a lot of monsters you want to bring that are focused to a certain team that don't fit in these categories. Chasoon, if you're specifically building a bruiser team to wear out the timer or to, you know, defense break and stay alive for a while, Chasoon's a great choice. There's lots of monsters that are great choices. These are just my opinions on what I think of RTA and what you want to try to include, especially trying to ban one person out of an entire category is not to be underrated. If you can ban their defense breaker, you're giving yourself a chance. And if you have a sustainer or multiple sustainers and you ban their defense breaker, you're going to be in really good shape. I think everyone's been in the position where you forgot and they banned you out of your only stripper and you had no way to get through their sustain, their immunity, their double immunity. Um, it's it's really, really powerful, and the match can be swung as soon as the picks are made after the ban phase. So I hope this was helpful. This may have been stuff you already knew or was instinctive or, didn't matter, but I hope it was helpful. I just wanted to share kind of my thought process, and let me know what you think in the comments, and I will catch y'all next time. Peace.